Hi there, I am Dr. Bree. I'm a doctor of physical therapy and I have over 15 years of experience specializing in the field of pelvic floor health. Today, I'm going to share with you a treatment style that I actually use on myself and I help clients with as well. And it's about using a wand for releasing pelvic floor muscles that have too much tension, that are too tight. So I'm going to show you exactly how I use my TheraWand to help release my tight pelvic floor muscles and how I train other people to do the same thing. Always listening to their body and always contacting a pelvic floor physical therapist in your area for one-on-one support if you have questions. So if you want to watch exactly how I use my TheraWand to help work with my muscles that constantly want to tighten up due to stress and just the natural way that my body is wired, I will show you that. But first, if you like this content, I would just love if you would subscribe to my channel, click the little bell to get notifications so you're always alerted when a new video goes live, and always share this information with a friend or someone else who might need it. This is how we spread the word about pelvic health. It's such an important part of our body. It helps keep us continent. It helps make sex pleasurable and enjoyable. It helps keep us stable and strong in our core. It helps prevent pain. And it's just wildly important for so many very, very important reasons. So with that being said, too much tension in the pelvic floor muscles is actually quite common and something I see more and more and more these days. And again, even I am not immune to this issue. I also have too much tension regularly, especially during periods of time when I'm under extra stress. I will notice tension building up in my pelvic floor, which causes a lot of discomfort. I feel like a heaviness, kind of a dragging sensation in my pelvic area. I do have a history of prolapse, and that's when the pelvic organs, such as, for example, the bladder, in my case, shifts. Even though I'm not symptomatic with prolapse anymore, when my muscles in my pelvic floor get tight, it makes the shifted bladder that's still slightly lower than it used to be, it makes it feel worse. And so whenever I start developing that pelvic tension, I feel like my prolapse is becoming symptomatic again, and it makes me crazy. I also get a feeling of just like a knot of tension in my perineum, and it can cause just a really uncomfortable sensation of pain, discomfort, and fullness in the vaginal area. Now, men can also have pelvic tension, and men definitely have pelvic floors. So if you are a male watching this video, I want you to know that I'm going to be showing a vaginal approach to releasing pelvic tension. But if you are a male with pelvic tension, then you can do similar internal work with a rectal approach. And I do have a video about rectal release techniques for helping release posterior pelvic tension. So you can check that out in the video description, or somewhere there will probably be a link where you can check that out. So let's get to the vaginal self-release work. So the TheraWand is the tool that we're going to be speaking of, and this is what it looks like. Now, this is something that you want to follow the manufacturer's instructions for cleaning and care. I'm going to walk you through exactly how I treat myself using my TheraWand. We're going to talk about positioning, we're going to talk about preparation, and then my exact process. All right, let's go ahead and start with positioning. So the first thing I do is make sure that I am in a private time and place. For me, I just really feel the need to have privacy and no worries that someone is going to burst in on me while I'm doing my pelvic floor release work. So I make sure that it's, during the day when my family's gone at work and at school, and I go to my room and I close the door. I just want to control all the controllables, because when I feel, or when anyone feels, a lack of safety and any type of uncertainty or threat, their body will tense up, and particularly the pelvic floor. So you want to make sure that you feel really, really safe in your space. So I usually am in my room with my door closed in a private time of day. Of course, if you don't have a private time of day, hopefully you can lock your door and just make sure that you are really cozy and comfortable in your area with lots of support, however you need that. So for me, I like to put a towel down just because I do use some lubricant with my wand. And so I want to be sure that my sheets are protected. So I put down a towel, and then I have 1 to 2 pillows for behind my head and upper shoulder area for support. And I lie down on my back with my knees bent and my feet on the bed. I also tend to be really, really cold. And so I love to have nice blankets that I can put on top of me so I can feel really cozy and warm and safe. From here, it's also important to think about lubrication. So it's really, really essential to have some kind of lubricant to help ease the process of entering your body with the wand. Now, everybody is different as far as what lubricants they love, but some different options include something like slippery stuff. Or you can also use oil-based, very natural lube products, such as this lovely one from my local area, which is by Mystic Roots, called Organic Love Lube. Every person's body is different and will respond differently to different types of lubrication. So for some people, natural oils such as coconut oil and jojoba oil will not be good for them. And some people have concerns that that could disrupt the pH balance in the body. So if you're more comfortable with a more commercial lube like this, that is a water-based gel, then that's also an option for you. It really depends on personal preference and what your body loves. But I definitely recommend not using a lube with any type of artificial scents or artificial heating elements that heat things up or anything like that. Go as natural as possible. The next thing that's important to do, at least the first time you are using your wand, is to really take a minute to explore kind of the mechanics of how the wand works in your body. So I use a curved wand, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. You can choose the side that you use for this particular wand. There is one side that feels more rounded. It's more like almost like a thumb. And the other side is a little more pointed. This one's going to be a little bit more intense of a sensation, and it can be really helpful for like trigger point release work or something like that. I typically prefer the more rounded end, but you can choose what works best for you. What you want to do though is if you're using a curved wand like this, you want to take a second to just kind of orient yourself to how this is going to move in your body. So I recommend lying down on your bed in that position I spoke about before and just kind of hold the wand in front of you and see how it will look when it is inside of you and working on your muscles. So just take a minute to kind of play around with the wand, move it in space so you can see how it's going to move in your body. Also know that when you are doing the work with your wand, you can keep your legs bent up, or you can definitely straighten them out so that they're flat on the bed, or you can have a bolster or pillow under your knees for support, or you can have one leg bent and the other leg more kind of flopped out to the side or straightened. It really depends on your preference and what feels good to you in your body. So let's go ahead and talk now about actually entering and the process for entering and using the wand on your muscles. So the first thing that I think is very, very helpful and important, and I always do, is I use my lube of choice. And for me, rather than putting it directly on the wand, which you can do, but for me, I usually use one of these natural oil-based lubricants, and I simply put a few drops of the lube on my fingertips, and then I just apply it to my vulva, just my whole vulva area. So I will use my lubed fingertips, and I'll actually apply it to this entire area here, paying particular attention to the opening of the vagina right here, and also the perineum. Now, this part of the body, the area between the vagina and the anus, is a really, really helpful area. It's a area where there's just layers and layers of pelvic floor muscles and fascia all together, all in one simple area that you can access even externally with no wand whatsoever. So it's just a really nice way to kind of get your body acquainted with your touch and with the idea that something's going to happen in this area For a lot of people, this type of work can be a little stressful and can be a little scary, even when you're doing it on yourself. And so just kind of acclimatizing your body to your touch is super, super helpful. So you can start on the perineum just with your hands. Take your time as you apply the lubrication to the vulva and perineum area. After you've done that, I like to either put a little extra lubrication on my wand or just actually begin the process. And to begin the process, I'm going to show you another model right here. So this is showing the pelvic floor muscles from the outside. And this is what they look like on the inside. So this is as if you were looking down into the pelvic bowl. And this is if you were looking into the pelvic bowl or into the pelvis, as in like you were at a gynecologist's office. So if your gynecologist was giving you an exam, this is what your gynecologist would see as far as the openings. So you have your pubic bone, you have your vaginal opening, you have your anal opening, and you have your sacrum and tailbone area on the bottom, okay? So these are the external pelvic floor muscles, and then the anus, and it hooks into the tailbone. And then these are the internal pelvic floor muscles. So this is what your wand is going to be feeling, okay? Your wand or your finger. You can also do this work with a finger instead of a wand. A wand just happens to make it easier because our fingers, it can be kind of awkward to use your own finger for this kind of work. But you can absolutely just use your finger. But once you insert the wand, you'll be able to access these deep muscles from the inside. So let's talk about inserting the wand right now. So for this process, you are going to want to be in a very, very, again, comfortable position, and you're going to want to take some deep breaths. This is after you have done the massage of the vulva with your oil. And what I like to do first is just begin by simply using the wand. So it's going to be positioned like this. You are lying down on your back. This is your pubic bone. This is your tailbone. So you can see that the wand it looks like this when you are entering, okay? So if it's a curved wand, it looks like this. You don't want to enter like this or like this. You want to enter straight in, okay? So again, straight in, not tipped up, because that'll hit your urethra and it'll be really, really uncomfortable, and not super, super tipped down, because that's also uncomfortable to go straight down toward your rectum. So you want to be going in like so, okay? But the key is you don't want to just go straight in. You don't want to just go for it. You need to take a minute to kind of allow your body to receive the wand. And this is a really special practice that might sound a little bit weird, but I want you to think of asking for permission for the vagina to allow the wand inside. It is very, very important to ask for permission. Consent is very important, and that's even consent with yourself. So please take a minute to literally just rest the wand at the entrance of the vagina without going inside. You are simply asking for permission. You can mentally ask, do I have permission to enter? And you will feel your muscles and you start to soften, and your vagina almost say, yes, you can. But it can take some time, some deep breaths, and asking for permission. So simply resting at the entrance of the vagina, airing toward the side of being on the bottom. Again, you don't want to be up on the top by your urethra. That's not going to be comfortable. You want to be aiming toward low entrance, okay? Not the anus, but a low vaginal entrance, not up high. So after spending a few breaths resting with the wand at the entrance, then you will notice that you will start to feel the vagina allowing the wand to insert very slowly. Again, always airing toward down toward the tailbone rather than pokey up toward the urethra. So now the wand is actually inside, okay? Again, notice what you do up here on the wand matters for the end that's actually inside of you. So if you tip down on the top of the wand, this is going to go up. When you go up on the top of the wand, this part of the wand, the head of the wand is going to go down toward the rectum. When you turn the wand to the side, it will be able to access the internal muscles. Notice I'm turning my wand to the side. When you turn the wand the other way, Now it's turned the other way, it will access the other side. So that's why I recommend taking some time at first to literally hold the wand in front of you and see what happens to the tip that's inside of you when you turn and manipulate the handle, okay? When it's inside of you, after you've asked for permission and allowed it to come inside, I like to take time to sweep one side of the pelvic floor muscles, to sweep from side to side the muscles. And you will sense what that feels like on the inside, just a sweeping motion, very slowly and gently. So you can do that on both sides and take your time with it. Now, after you've swept both sides, sweeping the muscles and just feeling and seeing how your muscles feel. Does it feel tight? Are you able to get a contraction? Are you able to squeeze around the wand, which you can do without even moving it at all? You can try squeezing and lifting like a Kegel and then letting it go. And a cool thing to do can be to try that before you do any type of release work. Do a Kegel contraction and then let it go. And then retest your Kegel strength at the end. Because oftentimes when you're tight, it's a really weak feeling contraction. It feels like almost nothing. But then after the release work that you do, you can try the Kegel again at the end of your session, and all of a sudden it'll feel a lot stronger. So try the Kegel and just see what happens. You should feel almost like it's sucking the wand up inside of you and then releasing it back down when you relax. So the squeeze and lift of your pelvic floor and then the release. It won't be quite that dramatic, but it'll be, you should feel like you're squeezing and lifting around the wand and then letting it go and relaxing completely. So you have entered, you've done your Kegel test, you have swept the sides, just clearing out the area of any stuck stress, tension, and energy, doing both sides. And then if you find a trigger point, or a tender point, an area where there's some tenderness and discomfort, maybe it feels kind of like a knot of tension, you are going to hold the wand on that general location. So we have muscles we have deep muscles in here. That's actually your hip muscles. We have muscles that aren't quite so deep. That's your part of your levator ani muscles. So there's also tender areas that are more ligamentous that may be kind of hard feeling and rigid feeling. But if you find an area that feels like a tender area of a muscle belly, it'll feel like kind of like a knot in your shoulder, how that's like a muscle belly and you feel tenderness and like a knot there. If you sense anything like that, leave the wand in the position where you feel the tenderness and simply breathe. Okay, breathe and hold steady pressure. You don't want it to be too firm of pressure, but you do want it to be a steady, semi-firm pressure on that spot. And the main factor here is that you are breathing. You are breathing deeply. Feel as if you're sending the breath to that area that you are holding onto with your wand, that you're pressing into. Okay. Now, I already said this before, but I'm going to say it again. When you're doing the sweeping and also the tender spot holds, you want to avoid straight up and also straight down. Okay. So avoid, if this was a clock, you'd want to avoid 12 o'clock and you'd want to avoid 6 o'clock. Most of your work is going to be between like 11 o'clock and 7 o'clock on one side and between like 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock on the other side, or even 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock on one side, and maybe 10 o'clock and 7 o'clock on the other. So you don't want to go straight down and you also don't want to go straight up with your work because those are very sensitive areas. So just take your time. The whole thing probably should take for your first session, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. You don't want to go too much longer than that, especially on your first session, or you're going to experience potentially quite a bit of soreness and discomfort the next day. So 3 to 5 minutes total. This doesn't have to take long. I'm taking long right now because I'm explaining it to you because I want you to stay safe. So when you're done with the sweeping on each side and then the trigger point or tender point release work, which by the way, you may feel if you are on actually a trigger point, you may feel as you hold the wand on the tender spot, you may feel the pain or the sensation. You might feel it in different parts of your hip area. You might feel it in like your glutes or your inner thigh area. It might radiate to different parts of your body. And if that happens, breathe into it. If you ever have any nervy pain, any shooting pain, or anything that's like extremely uncomfortable, then please stop. This is not worth you being in pain. And we want to be careful with this because it's a sensitive area of our body. So if you have any questions and you're not sure about any of this, stop and talk to a physical therapist who can guide you step by step together in person. But if all is well and you're just feeling some tightness, some tenderness, maybe a little bit of referred pain, but it's nothing, tingling or shooting or sharp or stabbing or anything like that, then you're fine. Just breathe into it. And then when you're done with your 3 to 5 minutes for the first session, you recenter the wand, and then you very carefully and slowly exit. Now, before you exit with the wand, you could do one more test of your Kegel. So a retest of your Kegel contraction. So you would squeeze and lift around the wand, and then you would fully release and see if it feels any different from when you started. If you feel a little bbit stronger, amazing. That means that you released some tight muscles and now they can work better. If you feel weaker, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. It could mean that your muscles are kind of recalibrating to what just happened because you did some big work there. So when you leave, I want you to slowly exit just as you slowly entered. So take your time, and breathing can facilitate entering and exiting. And of course, all the in-between work too. So take some deep breaths. Think about inhaling and softening the pelvic floor. Think about exhaling and softening even more. So it's like you're inhaling and relaxing, and you're exhaling and relaxing even more. And your wand will come out. Not quite like that. My model is a little tight. So your wand will come out. When you're done, just like you took time to slowly enter the vagina and to ask permission, it's also important not to just jump up and move on with the rest of your day. Take a minute to actually place your hand on your vulva and just say thank you, and close the session with some self-compassion and some self-care. Take some deep breaths with your hand on the opening of the vagina and the vulva area. Just right here is perfect. Maybe fingertips on the perineum, and simply breathe. And again, thank yourself. This is a really important way to close the practice and to keep your nervous system feeling calm rather than just jumping into the rest of your day and reactivating stress in your body. So seal in the practice with some thanks and gratitude. And then, of course, you would just clean up your wand as in the manufacturer's instructions. Do not use alcohol on it. You just warm soapy water is fine, and move on with your day. So I hope that was very, very helpful. I hope you'll try out the wand if this is something that seems like you might need. This is a practice that I personally do symptomatically when I'm feeling a lot of stress in my life and I'm starting to feel tension in my pelvic floor muscles. I will use this practice. Or if you are somebody who knows that you have a chronically tight pelvic floor, if you're seeing somebody, ask your physical therapist what they recommend. But I would encourage you to do 3 times a week to start with, potentially working up to 5 times a week. So 3 to 5 times a week. Or start with 3 to 5 minutes for your first session. And you could go a little longer than that, but it's really not necessary to do this for too long. Okay. So it doesn't have to take a long time. This is quick and easy. And it's something you can do often and regularly as a prevention against a buildup of excess tension or as a treatment of excessive pelvic tension. If this was helpful for you, I hope you will give it a like and share it with someone who needs it. And also, if you are dealing with chronic pelvic tension and you want a guided program to help you, please check out my Overcome Pelvic Pain for Women program. The link is in the video notes. All right. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.